Okay, thank you for the introduction, Peter, and I apologize for speaking in English. I'm afraid my Dutch is not quite up to scratch yet, but I am learning. I have my level 4 test next month, and ik ben wat nerveus erover. I've also changed the subject of this presentation. I could have spoken about perceptions and prejudices about Japan, but that would have made the job of my discussant, Ambassador Taher, too easy, I think. So I've changed things a little bit. I'm going to talk about the discipline of international relations and perceptions and prejudices in the discipline of international relations, how that's changing, but how those prejudices still inform much of the academic work that is done on the East Asian region and on the concept of East Asian order. And I'm going to finish by talking a little bit about what MEARC, the Modern East Asia Research Center, is doing about it. So, the discipline of IR has long been critiqued for being Western-centric. We see this in the work of Wever in 1998 and also Smith in 2000. What they mean by this is that, first of all, the concepts that inform the discipline, the majority of the top journals and top institutes are all located in the West, and this has shaped how we look at the subject of international relations. This is changing, or this has been changing over the last 10 years with a number of publications that are expanding the interests and theories of the discipline beyond these Western-centric perceptions. Starting with the book by Amitav Achaya and Barry Buzzen, published in 2010, I think, on non-Western international relations theory. So here we see the discipline moving towards non-Western areas as sources of international relations theory rather than areas where Western concepts can be applied, where areas are simply case studies. We see this also in a number of other works, post-colonial works, notably by Agathanglu and Ling, Transforming World Politics, Nayak and Selbin, Decentering International Relations, and Jones's Decolonizing International Relations, all designed to challenge these Western-centric perceptions and to broaden the theories that we have to understand the field. But we also see an expansion of areas of interest, if you like, in terms of looking at religion in international relations, a book by Fox and Sandler only published in 2007. This is something quite new, surprisingly, to the field of international relations, looking at non-Western perspectives of international political economy, Blaney and Inayatula's Savage Economics, and finally looking at how the field of international relations is taught around the world, the book International Relations Scholarship Around the World by Wever and Tickner. So there are a lot of changes taking place, but this Western-centric discipline continues to inform how we think about the subject of international relations, and today I'm going to talk about how it shapes the perceptions of East Asian regional order. Notably starting with a book by Barry Buzzen in 2004, a professor at the London School of Economics, who talks about the European Union as the vanguard international society, the end point that all regions in the world must attain, essentially. Political, economic, union, and of course, common currency. This notion of the EU as a final historical endpoint for all international societies around the world informs also how East Asian regional order is understood. Ravenhill in 2009 commenting that East Asian order is much ado about nothing, criticizing in particular the weak institutions, the lack of legal enforcement, and the weak and overlapping trade agreements in the region. And I want to look at Ravenhill's perception of East Asian regionalism in a little bit more detail. is it much ado about nothing? We see in particular Ravenhill criticizing East Asian regional institutions from ASEAN in blue there to the ASEAN +3 in blue and red to the East Asia Summit in blue, red and green, although it's missing a couple of members there, it's a little bit of an old map, to the ASEAN Regional Forum. And what he's criticizing essentially is the way in which a topic such as terrorism is discussed in all of these forums separately, that nothing concrete is ever established. The same criticism is leveled at the Asia-Europe meeting, but fret not, the same criticism is also leveled at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. It seems that from these mainstream Western-centric perspectives, nothing is happening with East Asian regionalism and East Asian regional order. The same can be said in terms of free trade agreements. After the Asian financial crisis, we see a plethora of free trade agreements being built in the East Asian region, from the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement that you can see there on your left, to, in 2004, this noodle bowl of free trade agreements that intersect and overlap with each other. This, for Ravenhill, is a failure, because these regional free trade agreements are becoming increasingly difficult to pull together under one common agreement. In terms of a lack of legal enforcement, we could look at the ASEAN Charter signed in November 2007. This was a charter that emphasized the importance of human rights in the East Asian region. This one's quite easy to critique, seeing as it followed a month after the suppression of what became known as the Saffron Revolution in Myanmar, the uprisings that took place, the demonstrations that took place in August and September 2007 in Burma. So from this mainstream perspective, East Asian regional order really is much ado about nothing. There's no substance to it. The perspective of MEARC is not to reject this perception, but rather to challenge it, to engage with it, and perhaps where we can to rethink it. And we can start with the example of Myanmar and go from there. In 2008, in May, Myanmar experienced the cyclone Nargis, which killed approximately 120 to 130,000 people. And the Myanmar junta was heavily criticized for its failure to respond adequately to this disaster. The French and the British calling this charging the Myanmar junta with crimes against humanity, the French also saying that the failure to respond to this crisis necessitated armed intervention in Myanmar. The East Asian and ASEAN response was quite different, engaging the Myanmar junta with aid, with dispatching experts to the region to respond to this crisis, to help rebuild in the wake of this disaster. What this leads us to is a contrast between the sort of mainstream perception of a country like Myanmar as a rogue state in international relations, compared to the ASEAN or East Asian approach that's much more focused on ASEAN norms such as non-intervention, consensus building, a sense that through this myriad of overlapping regional institutions, a different kind of order is created, what Barr calls complex engagement, what Chinya Chin refers to as processual constructivism. Essentially, they're both saying that states are socialized into these common norms in the East Asian region. And even American writers such as T.J. Pemple in 2010 praising the overlapping regional institutions of East Asia for guaranteeing peace for so long in such a troubled region. So, we can look from these different perspectives at a case like Myanmar and ask whether this method of engagement hasn't been successful in some way in bringing change in the East Asian region, in bringing change in Myanmar. The process of democratization is said to be moving along since the November 2010 election, however flawed they were. And again, this is not to throw out Western theories or Western perspectives of international relations, but merely to engage with them, to challenge them, and perhaps to rethink them where we can. And this is what we're doing over the coming year together with the Osaka School of International Public Policy. I should also say we're doing it more broadly in the university with new MA programs in Asian Studies and a new MA program in International Studies here as well. I have to mention that because I see some potential students in the audience. The first step is to take to hold a joint conference or to hold parallel conferences, I should say, at the end of March this year, one to be held in Leiden, one to be held in Osaka, in which we'll discuss alternative concepts and alternative perceptions of East Asian international order. And hopefully, if the finances are there, to bring the two groups together from the East Asian region, from Europe, to discuss the concept of international order in East Asia and to rethink it, hopefully leading to a publication in a conference later this year. I will stop there and hand over to my discussant. Thank you very much.